back to Trapani's Choice, episode 14. Your host, Nick Trapani. And what an episode I have installed for you guys. I had a one-on-one conversation with such a good friend of mine and such an influence on my life, Mat Campino. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for him driving me into doing massage therapy and also getting into stand-up comedy. We've talked for hours and hours in length about comedy, and we have such a great chemistry together. So I hope you enjoy this episode as much as I did filming it. How are you, Matthias? Good to finally get you on the Zoom call.
I'm going very well. Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, I have spoken about you probably 3 or 4 times in this short podcast career already, which tells people that you're a big influence in my life, I guess. And I've been thinking over the last few days, actually, of like how we met and what it was about each other, because we're actually quite a few years apart. You were actually good friends with one of my friends, Roy's older brother. So I think you're about 4 years older than me, and 3 years, sorry. 3 years.
Let's go with 3.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Let's go with 2.5. Let's go with 2.5. And I remember...
What a welcome.
What a welcome, yeah. And you're looking old. No, but you were good friends with Aaron. And I remember Aaron saying to me, because I was very close with that whole family, and he said, you'll get along with Matthias out of all his friends. You'll get along with Matthias because he's into Marilyn Manson as well. And that was... And I thought, like, that's all it took back then. Do you know, like, you didn't need anything else. Whereas now, you know, like, if someone starts to want to become my friend or whatnot, I start thinking, you know, what do they want from me? Like, what do they want? Do they really want to be friends with me, or is this, you know, they want something else? Whereas back then, it just took that we liked a guy that used to stick a microphone in his bum. And I don't even think you like
that, but yes. I'd like to just say that, yeah, it seems like now we're looking for the differences. You know, what's this piece of shit wanting to do? Why does this person want to be friends with me? Whereas before it was like, hey, here's a common ground. We can be friends.
Yeah, we like Marilyn Manson.
Yeah,
and
I like you now. But I like you now.
We've grown the test of time. The friendship has you know, we've been through a lot together, actually. And, you know, just took from that, we've traveled overseas a number of times together. You now live in a beautiful part in Sydney. And obviously been there and visited and stayed with you there. And I think if you've traveled with someone and you're still friends afterwards, it's a pretty good chance, you know, that the friendship will last. But, it's been interesting sort of going over, and I like this about the podcast is that we get to go back over things, you know, especially like I just did my series of comedians, which we want to get into. But you're a big influence in my life because, we both got along so well when you were younger. We both studied massage. You were basically the person that got me into studying massage because you've been around the world.
Yes. You're welcome, by the way.
And then also comedy is a big part of our life as well, which we've spoken about doing podcasting and, you know, doing stand-up sets and everything. You were actually heading in that direction probably before I was. You're more into your screenplay writing and stuff like that now. But the direction when we first started talking about it was comedy in a big way, stand-up. So why don't you tell the people of what you're doing now and, you know, also a little bit about what I've just touched on, what it was like for you being friends with me.
I never really considered us friends, actually, but just more acquaintances that had some similar interests. It was a funny transition from being just kind of like a friend of, you know, a friend until we sort of just grew to a point where we were just friends and we'd just hang out. You know, we spent how many hours watching, you know, Curb Your Enthusiasm and just hanging out and talking and, you know, arguing, debating, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, that really...
We do have very different views on things as well.
Yeah, I know. Like, I'm all about saving the seals, and you're about clubbing them, as we've discussed.
No, but I mean for food.
Food. Oh no, food. One of our most favorite things. One of my things that I always
Oh
talk about
yes,
is that when we'd go to an unusual restaurant, and
yeah,
I would choose what you ate, and you would choose what I ate, or we would do things like that, or at least the drink. You know, we'd go to a place where they sold peculiar things. You know, like a tea mixed with I don't know, some sort of weird milk and jelly and, you know, crunchy bits
yeah,
in there.
yeah.
And so you'd choose one for me and I'd choose one for you. And then we just sort of both have to suck it up and eat whatever the other person had suggested they get. That was actually one of my most fun moments with you, is the eating. Eating's a very sensual pastime, very evocative and a very emotional time. A lot of senses involved there. So yeah, I'd say that's probably the one thing that drew us together was the eating of
The love for food.
unusual, interesting, dishes. And you know, it's obviously traveling together through Asia. Mainly, I think it's Thailand. Mainly, we've been to together. Is it?
We've been to Thailand a few times. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. So yeah, that was obviously a good part, a good bonding experience, as you say. When you travel with someone, if you retain the friendship afterwards, that's always a bonus. But you do learn a lot about someone.
You
You
do.
learn what their peculiar habits are. It's like living with
Yeah.
someone really on a sort of temporary basis, and you get to really see what they're all about, and what they prioritize and what their funny little habits are, and you can sort of make some good judgments based on on that. Like this person's a
Whether you
psycho.
want to hang around that person afterwards.
Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize this person's insane. It's quite obvious.
Well, speaking of insane, I think obviously being very good friends with Roy, when we went to Thailand the first time, there were five of us, I think, that went over.
Yep.
One of the guys we were meeting over there, he was actually on his honeymoon, I'm pretty sure, and he then flew over and met us. I could be completely wrong. Justin was on he's away. Maybe he was just away with his now wife, and then he came and met us over there. Yeah, regardless, anyway,
Yeah.
the very first night that we landed in Bangkok, this is what I'm speaking of crazy.
Uh-huh.
I think we got to our hotel quite late from memory. I remember it being completely dark when we got there. And Roy was a little tired. Now, I was meant to be sharing a room with Roy, I'm pretty sure, and whatnot, because I think we had two rooms at that stage. So there was three in one room and two in the other. And I got there, and my mentality is like, fuck that, we're in Bangkok. I'm not sleeping tonight. And everyone was exhausted. But you'd been to Thailand previously, and you thought, I can't let Nick out in Bangkok on his own. He'll die. The first night, he'll die. And I remember you coming, and I knew you were exhausted, but you still came out with me. We didn't have a big night, but we had a couple of drinks, and you knew that I just needed to get that, that itch of being in Bangkok and just going out and having a drink and relaxing out. And we did that.
Yeah, that does sound. I like that. Yeah, I was definitely thinking of you, but also like of me, not wanting to have to find you at a police station or a morgue or in some sort of,
More,
street
more, more
prostitutes.
like it.
Yeah, I just wanted to look after you, and I thought I've been here before. I've made some mistakes. I'm going to make sure that you don't make the same mistakes that I made, or worse.
Or
So
worse.
yeah, I thought that was very a great way to have the holiday start, and we had a great time. And
But I think that's also like, for me, one of my key values in life is loyalty, and respect for each other. That's what I sort of value in a friend. And it's sometimes at times where you don't expect someone to stay. I sort of, we weren't as close as what we are now then. But by you stepping up then and going, you know what, Nick, I'll come out with you. We'll have a couple of drinks and have a good time. And then, well, like we were saying, they're little things that you go, all right, this person's actually got my back and they've got me. And that's something. And then we traveled again years later back to Thailand, just the two of us, which was another fantastic holiday and great memories that we had there. So, but a little bit about that trip as well. When you went, you actually left your job. and your partner at the time, and you went for a little round the world trip because that's what Matthias needed to do. And I joined you on the first leg, and that was Thailand.
Yep.
And this is where I want to get into, where you got back. I'd been plumbing at the time and sort of didn't have much work on. And we were sitting at your parents' place at the time. And I'm pretty sure you just said, why don't we do a short massage course? We both like massage. We've been to Thailand.
Yep.
And I think that's how it really kicked off.
Gee, your memory's good. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Well, I came back from overseas traveling for, I don't know, half a year or more. And I came back to my parents' place. I think I was 28 at the time. And I don't know, you had a day off and we were hanging out at my parents' place. And yeah, I had this thought, things that I wanted to do rather than go back to, previous corporate or
management roles or corporate roles. Yeah.
Yeah. Just business stuff. I thought, business, but massage could be a good way to get into a different type of business. And, I'm passionate about it, as you say. And I thought, why not? So that's when we enrolled together, I think at that same time. Frustratingly, I got a job offer the very next week. So I said, actually, I need to make some money because I've just spent several thousands of dollars. And you went along with it. And I I won't say I helped you, but I certainly was interested in your studies. And,
Oh, definitely. And it was a big part of, if you hadn't have pushed me into that role, well, then I may not have done it. I may never have done it. And then since then, and then, as you said, you started studying later. And, basically, then we sort of worked off each other. We sort of learned from each other at that stage.
Yeah, that's right. This is just getting to sound like a bit like a mutual appreciation society, I think everyone gets it. I love you.
This is actually a cancel group, and I'm going to cancel you, everything that you're doing. I'm going to turn it around on you. So I'm actually going to start talking about now a little bit about comedy, and also the fact that a lot of people mistake you for the very funny from The Hangover, and you didn't want me to bring this up. What's his name? What's that dickhead's name?
Well, so I don't mind that comparison to Bradley Cooper. Yeah, I don't mind that comparison. I object to a couple of other ones that I get. I don't know who else do you know. Do you know who Ralph Fiennes is?
No.
So he plays M in the Bond movies. He plays Voldemort in the Harry Potter movies. Basically, he's a good actor, but he's way older than I am, and he's nowhere near as attractive. But if you type in Ralph Fiennes,
neither is Bradley Cooper.
Huh?
Neither is Bradley Cooper as attractive as you.
Stop it. No, I'll happily be compared to him. Until he does something wrong, until he's found guilty of some awful things in his past, I'll be happily compared to him. But yeah, I get that.
Speaking of another person who, if I watch someone doing stand-up and I sort of try and relate them to one of my friends, one person that just every time I watch him on stage, his little mannerisms, everything he does, even the jokes that he tells and the little noises he makes, is Chris D'Elia. And for those that don't know, Chris D'Elia's, he was actually in the TV show You, which is a show about a stalker. And this guy stalks his girlfriend or whatnot. And in this second season, Chris D'Elia was playing, I think he played a comedian as well, who also would lure in young girls, drug them, and so he was a pedophile. On that topic, then on Instagram, these girls came out and said, does he really need to act? And then uploaded a whole heap of messages where he was trying to lure these 16-year-old girls into his room in real life, like this happened. So now no one's seen or heard of Chris D'Elia in a long time. And I think I called you up straight away and I said, listen, if you were ever to remind me of a comedian, now more than ever.
See, no matter what I say now, it's going to sound defensive or it's going to sound like, I agree with him. I just want to clarify, I am not him. I'm not here.
But you don't actually look like Chris D'Elia. You don't look like him. It's just like his mannerisms and how he talks. And as I said, even just like little noises and everything, that's how I imagine you doing stand-up. And he's amazing. Don't get me wrong. His stand-up is incredible. So...
well, see, I'm not that big a fan of his stand-up. I got to admit, I don't mind some of his more esoteric and unusual work. Like I've sent you that his impersonation of
Eminem.
Oh, mate, that cracks me up every time. I could just talk about Blapkins all night long. But it's his stand-up. I'm not that big a fan of. I do like it. It's funny.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
I disagree with you there, and I think I disagree with you on several of your choices for your top 6 comedians. We can get into that another time, of course. It takes a big man like yourself to admit you're wrong.
What's that? Sorry, I missed that.
I said it takes a big man like yourself to admit when you're wrong. So thank you for admitting you're wrong off camera. I know you haven't done it on camera, and I appreciate that. You want to.
I'll probably never admit that I'm wrong on camera, just so you know.
Oh, no, I've been speaking to your wife. She definitely admits that.
No, but actually, speaking of, seeing that we're on the topic of comedy, throughout the series of me doing my 6-part series of most influential comedians, you and I had spoken a couple of times, and even, that week of that comedian that I'd done, and I was very interested. So I'll just run through my list first again, and then I'd be very interested to hear who you may have on your list, if you can think of 6. But so I started off with Eddie Murphy, Bill Hicks, Jim Jeffries, Anthony Jeselnik, Bill Burr, and Ricky Gervais. Now, just remember, these aren't comedians that I would aspire to be like, but it was more so something about them or what they'd done in their journey to becoming a comedian that I took on board, and I try and sort of take on that myself, or something about it that has helped me to write jokes and things like that. So,
right, and you've said this before in your podcast, so I do listen to them, just so you know. You keep claiming that I don't love you and I don't listen to your podcasts and all that sort of stuff, but I do listen to your podcasts. I do agree that you are most similar to Jim Jeffries in your topics, personality, that kind of thing. You've got more of a bit of a angry side to it, like a Sam Kinison kind of thing from the 80s, maybe. But I think that you're close to Jim Jeffries, and Jim Jeffries is a fantastic comedian again, but I don't think that he's that influential for me. Or
no, he's different style, completely different.
He's not. He's a bit of a sledgehammer with jokes. Some fantastic bits, but one glaring omission was Louis C.K. Now, I know you're a politically correct fella, so you don't want to bring him up, and that's fine. I can accept. You count to the masses, and you don't want to bring him up. But we're talking it's the separation of art from the artist here, and I'm saying that his body of work is
not his body.
Not his body, or
just not his body.
Not his body, or what he does with it in front of.
His body's got him into trouble. His body's got him into trouble.
Yeah, what he does with his body is not what we want to see. It's his comedy.
Yeah.
His body of work there.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but look, Louis C.K. is. It was very hard not to put him on the list because you and I have both spoken quite in depth about Louis C.K. Even you're right. Even ways that I remember he thought about, like, how can I make $1 million? I'm pretty sure you told me. How can I make $1 million for his daughter or something like? Is that correct? And so he made, like, he filmed the thing, the production himself and everything like that. Sold it for $5 on the internet rather than making this mass production and not making as much money, and then put that away for his daughters. Something like that, isn't it?
It was something like that. Yeah, he made he offered his special up through his website for $5, and he expected to make a certain amount of money after paying all his crew and the technicians and everything. But when he came to making the money, he compiling all the money, he had way more than he was expecting. So he did sort of squirrel some away for his daughters, because he knew that eventually it would all go to shit. And some sort of premonition right there.
He knew the phone calls would come out.
You just knew someone's recorded something somewhere. Someone's going to have an interview sometime. But like, his personal life aside, as a comedian,
he's amazing.
He's probably my favorite comedian, because he was the one that really. So when you said that stuff about Eddie Murphy being so influential for you, because you couldn't imagine someone saying these words as a kid, I felt that same way about Louis C.K. when I first saw his stand-up. I couldn't believe that someone would talk about their children like that, their wife like that.
Yeah. He even drops the N-word. Like, nothing's off limits.
Yeah.
Which is not. I'm not saying.
So maybe it's good you did.
No, but what I'm saying is, what I've expressed the whole way through this podcast is, I believe that there's nothing off limits, and I'm pretty sure in the last podcast you asked me what topic is off limits. I really don't think there is anything off limits. If you do it, you've got to own it, and he does.
Exactly. It's about the consequences that will entail. And as I've said to you before, if you're going to be discussing some of your particularly vulgar and offensive material, you can certainly do it. If you're a comedian at a comedy club doing comedy, then I think there should be absolutely no limits. But if you're a fella on YouTube that people don't know necessarily, maybe you need to just have a little caveat at the start of the video. Hey guys, we're going to be discussing this today. Something like that. I'm only looking after you. I don't want you to get Chris D'Elia out of YouTube. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're pretty strict YouTube as well. So you've got to be very careful about what you say and what you don't say. But all right, so number one, Louis C.K. Who's second on your list?
I would say Jimmy Carr. I know you love offensive comedians, and he is.
Yeah, he's very offensive.
I think he's on the level of Anthony Jeselnik, but he just has a greater body of work again. Same as Louis C.K. He's got, I don't know, half a dozen specials, and they're all hour and a half long.
Yeah.
I would say that, Jimmy Carr would have to be up there. Frankie Boyle, I think I've mentioned him before too.
Frankie Boyle's amazing. Yeah.
I mean, when he described this old fella as looking like the ghost of the first monkey that got AIDS, like that's sort of an insult. And I'm butchering it. It was something like that, but it was. He says it better than that. But that sort of an insult is just absolutely devastating. And his crowd work's amazing. He's so quick with those comments, and same as Jimmy Carr as well. A lot of those are all scripted, but they're so well done. What about your crowd work, if I might just deviate slightly? Have you gone into that at all? Or I'm at the stage now where,
when you very first start, and I've spoken about this before as well, you are so nervous when you first start talking or doing your set. You're trying to remember everything. I really think your first set you do at an open mic night really is, well, maybe not the very first, but then when you really sort of hone in on it, you've spent a long time working on that. That's probably the longest that you'll ever spend working on a set to do it. So I was up there, just reciting, what I'd remembered, where I didn't even see if the crowd were laughing. Do you know what I mean? So, whereas now you feed off that laughter, and, there's these pauses when they're laughing, and you can interact with the crowd and everything. So I'm definitely not at any of those levels, but yeah, look, I'm happy to take on the crowd now, if that makes sense. I'm happy to work in with the crowd, have a chat with them, and use them for jokes as well. So, yeah. Cool.
And look, this is another glaring omission. George Carlin. I really don't see why you hate him, and he's the estate of George Carlin. I mean, decades of comedy, some of the most hilarious specials, and I know you're a big fan of that that opening bit. I think it's his last special. We've discussed it, many
Yeah,
times.
many times. Yeah.
But yeah, you've decided that you're going to honor his
So I
memory.
think I need to do another series later on, maybe a 3-part series of comedy gods, and he would definitely be a god. Just an absolute, and this is what I'm saying. It was so hard when I first started this series. Mihail actually wanted to do just a 3-part series, and I think I put a thing saying out that it was a 6-part series without him knowing. It was a challenge to do a 6-part series. It actually seemed like there was a lot of work that went into it, behind the scenes, getting things right, getting information, research. I'd watch over all the old specials, and do a lot of research in the week that I was doing it. I'd probably do later on another series where I would talk about people like George Carlin and stuff like that, because like you're saying, there's probably no one. He's probably the best comedian that I can think of, really. To be
I'd say so.
To be as old as he was, and he'd do 2-hour specials, longer.
Yeah. Unbelievable. So that's going to be your apology, special follow-up kind of thing. A series sort of saying, look, I was wrong the first time. As always, I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Just as usual, here's my apology. And then you can just do the real comedians that we've just discussed. Sorry, mate.
We lasted travel, but we may not last our first podcast.
I know. I'm really getting through this whiskey much faster than I was expecting, having to deal with your nonsense online. In person,
well,
it's bad.
I had to have a few. Yeah, I had a few drinks just to put up with you. But all right. So how many? I think you've listed about 4 there. You got 2 more to go.
Look, I would say I'd have to agree with you with Eddie Murphy. Just as a kid, he was hugely influential, and just no holds barred. Obviously, just to clarify, it was of its time, as I've said to you before.
You can't do that stuff now.
Yeah, we
you can't. But Jim Jeffries speaks about that as well in an interview and on his thing, on his special. Yeah. So that was amazing then. And how old do you reckon you were when you first watched like Raw and Delirious?
I was a teenager. I don't know, maybe 15, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something like that. I wasn't young. I think the first comedian that I can remember as a proper influence was Dice Clay, which very like graphic, and looking back on it now, not that funny as an adult, but as a kid.
No, it's not. I don't find it funny now.
Yeah,
like looking at it. Yeah,
I think I was maybe 12. I was actually introduced to him by a mate of ours who you trained with at Taekwondo. I went to high school with him. We'll just omit his name for the moment, but he introduced me to Dice Clay, and this is back when everything was on tapes, cassettes.
Yeah.
He gave me a bootleg version of some special. I was laughing my head off, and I think he got it from his older brother, and I don't know, it just was passed down, and that was hilarious to me, hearing these nursery rhymes that were done
limericks.
In a bulky fashion, and I thought that was the funniest thing ever. Hickory dickory dock, he's saying things about his penis. I mean, yeah.
But they seem like cheap jokes now, don't they? They do, but for their time, it was controversial. It was different.
Pushing the boundaries, that's
pushing the boundaries. Yeah,
I expect that, or I would want that.
And that's what I love about comedy, is being able to push these boundaries. And I know that, and the funny thing is, and I sort of where you're at with it now, with like you're very cautious with what you want to put out there, and that's fine. And I fought with that for a long time as well, because having a massage clinic, like having a proper business, and there have been some clients that have stumbled across some of my stuff that they probably shouldn't have, and so when you go down a path of being very professional in work and how you promote yourself. I never used to put stuff on social media for that reason. I don't put anything political up. I don't show my views to anything. And then all of a sudden, it's like I'm in comedy and I have to be funny, and the things that I find funny are pretty sick. So
Yep.
I fought with myself for a long time about putting some of that stuff out there, and then I just started doing it. It's like a drug. Once you start saying the wrong things and filming it, there's nothing more exciting.
Yeah.
But I know that feeling of like, should I say that? Should I mention this? Should I do that? Like, you're becoming vulnerable, right?
Absolutely. And the problem is that I used to view Facebook as a way to communicate with my friends, and my friends knew how I was, and I would put up jokes or humorous thoughts that I thought were funny, and I thought my friends would know where I was coming from. That it's never from a place of hatred. It's always from just how can I make this particular thing funny so I can deal with it. That's my emotional level. I'm very basic.
Yeah.
Something hurts me, I want to make fun of it. That's the way that it is. And I lost a variety of friends on Facebook because of things that I posted. And I certainly got some negative feedback from things, and I just really I didn't understand at the time. I didn't have the emotional maturity. Mind you, this is only like 5 years ago, so I mean, I was still...
And I remember this well, actually. I wouldn't have thought of it unless you brought it up again. But yeah, that's actually quite interesting now that you've gone the other way, because I remember actually receiving phone calls from people, not necessarily in regards to that, but while talking to them, they're like, did you read what Matthias put on Facebook? And I think the thing that's very hard with Facebook, and I think Twitter are doing something now where you can actually voice record. I'm not sure if that's true. I may have heard that. I'm not on Twitter, but with Facebook, it's one of those things because it's very difficult when you write a joke for someone to understand it as well. So I know you very well, so I can read over something and go, well, I know where your head is going with that, where your thought process is. But for someone who doesn't, and also even writing jokes and performing them on stage, there's a lot of people out there that get offended very easy. And I'm sure you witnessed that, like with those comments you made.
Well, it's not even, they weren't comments. I wasn't viewing opinions. It was just, here is an obvious joke. And one of the, I don't even know if I can mention it necessarily, but it was about the kids in Africa, which is not a great way to start. I know, but it was...
No, you probably can't mention this.
Oh, okay.
No, you can. Go.
Sorry, it was about Boko Haram. That's what it was, about the kids that they abducted. It wasn't about anything else like that, what you said before about Crystalia. Just come on. It was the Boko Haram, when the girls got abducted, those, I don't know, 200 girls or whatever. And I made an obvious joke. Now, it was in poor taste, and sure, the subject matter wasn't particularly wonderful, but I got someone who commented and said, I hope this isn't a joke. And I had to reply, of course it's a joke. Like, what do you expect? Like,
you want me to
you think I'm actually viewing and making this view, open to the world, that I genuinely believe that this is true about these girls? Of course not. Just anyway, so that person defriended me, and that was it.
Do you want to name and shame them? I think this is their time to.
Nah, not really.
Can we put them on the shit list?
If you like, but it doesn't. I haven't spoken to them in maybe 10 years or something, so I guess it's probably... From
that comment. Do you reckon it was from that comment?
Oh, I mean, it's friend of a friend, so...
Okay, so it's no big deal.
It wasn't like, as you said before, how you're very loyal and you like loyalty. It's not like your Sicilian kind of mentality of, you do me one disservice and that's it. You're dead to me kind of thing.
I'm like that. I'm like that. Yeah.
I'm on eggshells all the time around you. Am I going to say the wrong thing? And then he's going to just never talk to me.
If you fuck up, that's it. We're done. We would be done. There'd be no question. You just never hear from me again.
Yeah, I know. That's what you do. That's all it takes is just the wrong...
punishment is I let you live, because I want you to spend the rest of your life suffering that you're not friends with me. You know what I mean? Like, wonder why, like what it was.
Yeah. Oh, if only I'll get to speak to Nick again. Oh. No, that's so. Anyway, so that's I am a bit more cautious, and I haven't posted anything on Facebook for years.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and it'd be weird if I just started up again out of nowhere, just like.
And we've never spoken about that actually. That's quite interesting. We've never spoken about that time period of you doing that, because it was you had a. It almost actually reminded me of Anthony Jeselnik at the time, because he's very big on the day of a tragedy, of putting out a tweet or something in regards to the tragedy. And you and I have spoken about it and everything at length and things like that. I probably don't do it because I'm not clever enough to think of something that day. You know, it's like, you know, when you have a conversation with someone and then when you leave, you're like, fuck, I should have said that. That's what I'm like.
Well, I would spend time thinking about stuff just to, you know, I would hear the tragedy, and then I'm quite good with words and double meanings and all that sort of stuff. So I would try and compile or try and fine tune a joke. And sometimes there was a time when there was, I think it was the Bastille Day issue, the Bastille Day problem, when people were killed, run down by a truck. And I came up with a hilarious joke. I thought hilarious. And one of my friends, he's half French, and I sort of said to him, you know, hey, do you think this is funny? And he said, it's funny, but I wouldn't put it up. And I thought, it would be a real dick move if I just did, you know, I know it's funny, you don't. So I respected that one. But again, that's what happens, you know, if I respect someone, I actually care, so I don't put it up. But oftentimes I just wouldn't ask anyone. And I did that one about the Adelaide Crows when that issue happened. Anyway, let's not even worry about that one, because that's.
But you know, it's a similar sort of topic. Is I'm especially finding with the comedy more so when I started up my massage clinic. When you open a business and you start doing things that are a little bit different from just going to get a normal job, and you're actually taking risks or whatnot, you do find that there's friends, or I won't say friends, you know, that actually, through maybe jealousy or, you know, it's just something that they've wanted to do, and you lose that friend. You know, you can sort of, and you can tell, especially with the comedy, sometimes I see that there's people who I would consider quite good friends, or, you know, they're around quite a lot, and they throw these little negative things out. You know, it might even be just something like, you know, so you got a pimple or something like that, and they're like, oh, so, you know, how are you going to go on camera with that? Or, you know, just like these little things, and it's like, you know why they're doing it? Do you know what I mean? I find it more so with the comedy. It's very hard to get on stage and do, try and tell jokes, I guess is the best way to put it. And people get jealous of that. So you do lose people.
And so do you feel like it's better off not having them around? If they've gone, if they've left you, then all the better. Like, you only really want to have people. I'm not saying you should have your own echo chamber of positivity. You know,
that's right. Yeah.
Wonderful. But you know, surely that's a good thing to get rid of these people that are
straight away. Yeah.
Not really for you.
And I don't take a lot of your friends will tell you that things are good. So, you know, like if I bring some friends to do, you know, to a gig or something like that, I'm not really like, they're going to tell me that I did well. Do you know what I mean? Usually your friends are going to say, oh, that was a good set, I love that joke. So I generally don't take that. Quite a few times, like, because I generally won't drink before I get up on stage, because I don't want to make it a thing that then I have to drink every time. But then times I've gone and got a drink at the bar afterwards, and someone actually makes the effort to walk from the other side of the room to come over, introduce himself, and tell, you know, talk about your set, tell you that they enjoyed it. That's who it's a stranger, and they didn't have to. So, but yeah, I guess when you got negative people around you, you kind of need, especially in this field, because every day you're pushing forward. You can't be dragged back. You can't have anything holding you back.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to be working for you, so that's good. And I'm there. I'd like to think that I'm one of the first people to ever, like your videos on YouTube. I'm not that big on Instagram. I don't really care about
Yeah.
that. I leave all those Insta hoes to the people that are worthy of it, such as yourself.
Yeah.
But I'm quite interested in YouTube because I like to, watch, as I said before, dash cam videos. That's a nice way of calming me down to watch other people crash their cars. So I'm happy to support you on YouTube. But my friendship is,
appreciate it, mate.
yeah, that's the only thing I'll do for you. I'm not going to jump on Instagram anymore and do that sort of stuff. No, I do follow you.
No,
of course.
I know you do. But no, look, I think the big thing about having you on here, especially for my first, I believe, real one-on-one interview, so to speak, or chat, whatever you want to call it, is because we spent many years actually talking about doing a podcast. And we actually spoke in length about comedy. And in a way, also you've pushed me into doing stand-up because at the time we were both talking about going, you're looking up places of open mic nights in Sydney. I was looking at them in Melbourne, and, you've gone along to a few of the nights. I've gone along, and then I just took the leap and went bang. And I went and did it. But it was you pushing me, really, because there's certain people that when you tell that you want to do something like that, and then when you speak to them in a couple of weeks and you're like, I didn't do it, you feel that little bit of disappointment in yourself. And it's good to have those people because they push you to do things. And that's what you really did for me, because every time we catch up, we talk about comedy and where we're at.
Yes, and congratulations to you again for having the balls to do this and putting yourself out there and the vulnerability. And if I can ride off your coattails and take some of the credits, like I did for your massage, probably everything else in life, I'm happy to do that. That's just me.
You can get a percentage of my nothingness.
I'd rather a little bit of something than a whole lot of nothing.
I'll tell you what, when these lockdowns, we didn't even touch on how you're going with lockdown, but maybe we'll save that for another podcast. But when I come to Sydney to do a gig, I'll definitely give you a free ticket. How does that sound?
This is like birthday and Christmas come at once.
This is not the friendship's been worth it now, hasn't it? I'll even buy you a drink.
You put in the hard yards with someone and they finally come through.
Pays off, mate. It pays off. But no, look, I just want to once again thank you for your time tonight. It's been great. And, as always, the conversation's always amazing with you. We could go on and on and on, I'm sure.
I was just going to say, we didn't even get to half the topics we were going to, potentially touch on. We thought, we'll have a couple of things we'll talk about, and we didn't even get to any of those things because of this rambling, meandering, nonsensical nature that we have. So good bloody luck in getting this podcast into some sort of tight little chunk or a little nugget that you can put out there.
We're not cutting anything. This whole thing's going up.
Terrific.
But now, look, once again, I'm very privileged to have you on here as the first interview, and it means a lot to have you on here because you have inspired me a lot. So really appreciate it, and thanks for also your support in everything that you do. Like you're saying, with following me on Instagram, even though you hate it, my YouTube, and supporting me. So I really appreciate it, and I'm definitely going to have you back on again. And I hope you've enjoyed this episode as well, mate.
Oh, look, it is, my pleasure to be here, and thank you for having me. It's good just even to talk to you. I know you don't like to talk to me because you're so busy with your comedy friends now, but I'm just appreciative that you've made some time for me. So thank you for that. Thank you for exploiting me on your podcast. Anytime, mate.
Is there any last things that you'd want to say? Is there anything that you want to talk about?
No, we can talk about those more extreme views after this call, I think, one-on-one.
Well, I appreciate having you on here, mate, and thanks again. And I'll chat to you soon.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot. Thank you. Bye.